u baahanahay waxaan ka heli karaa qof walaashay ama walaalkay ama bangiga ama qof kasta oo ku kalsoonahay aan ka heli karaa maanta
shilinka kumdiba yo angu yakan bi sharaab ilaaw ka angar anar gaduuf garami argadade anin gaafan aganin armadene amnam qaraba dhaqay amnam qaraba dhaqay nam qaraba dhaqay am bangi dhaqay kumdiba kana rafudade.
Kama nitakuwa na namna ya kupata shilingi 1,100 nikiamua ni naweza kuwa possible niko nayo ba possible inaweza kuwa hata mimi 1,100 hiyo naweza kuwa nayo, ama naweza kama niko na wanyama naenda kuuza hizo nileta, kama hakuna naenda kuomba maombi kwa NGOs ambaye wanapeana rasilimali baadaye wanarashua kama deni.
Wana kan tafutu wayabit wayasule zirikota bitat handa kan bitat suni wayasuni na chiwanenga furi 120 suni alma 200 bitat
boqol oo kun oo Kenya dan dadaal iyo jundi iyo waxaan sameeyay sidaan ku helay waa khatar wa haddaan laakiin business iyo waxaan oo sameey waa heli karaa.
Niko, tuchomoke. Niko. Ni nini sura? Stress nia? Ujaona hii public notice? Public notice gani? Bro, hujasoma hii public notice? Unakumbuka ile insurance cover nilichukua? Hiyo kampuni ya bima imefungwa bana. No. Serious. Ona. Na vile niko na claim na wao. Usipanic. Policy Holders Compensation Fund, PCF, ni agency ya gava yenye ilibuniwa ili kucompensate mtu yeyote mwenye ako na insurance claim kwa kampuni ya bima ambayo imefungwa. For real?
Yes.
And what's the process?
Enda kwa website ya PCF. Fata hiyo procedure ya claim vile iko kwa website yao. Step by step. Mpaka mwisho and you are sorted.
Policyholder Compensation Fund will work with you hadi siku utakuwa compensated. Kumbuka, PCF is the only insurance guarantee scheme in Africa. PCF, thamana ya bima yako.
Did you know you can purchase affordable insurance products which are tailored to meet your needs? Microinsurance offers affordable insurance products in exchange of small regular premium payments. It covers low-value assets against various perils dependent on the scope of the cover. In the event of a loss, the claim is settled within 10 days. Insure all things that matter to you through microinsurance today. Read and understand the terms and conditions of your policy. This message is brought to you by the Insurance Regulatory Authority, IRA. Bima bora kwa taifa.
Good evening and welcome to Prime Edition tonight. The good news is the doctors have called off their strike that lasted for more than 1.5 months. We also have details lined up regarding the school reopening that President William Ruto has rescheduled for Monday. We have details lined up for you. Welcome to Prime Edition. Here are tonight's highlights.
We signed this particular return to work formula today so that it can pave way for the doctors to resume work within 24 hours from now.
Deal at last. Doctors end their countrywide strike after reaching an agreement with the government.
Sasa mvua itazidi na kwenda chini na hatutaki watoto wetu wakose nafasi pia ya term ya kusoma. Ningependa kutangaza ya kwamba shule zetu zote za Kenya zitafunguliwa Jumatatu ijayo.
A fall of the rains. Schools reopen next Monday as the weatherman announces reduced rainfall in most parts of the country. And haunted love or fake fertilizer. CS Mythical Inturi claims the impeachment motion facing him is fueled by his first failed love. Lensa Odingo is our sign language interpreter. My name is John Jacob Curia. You're very much welcome to the broadcast. Now, to start us off, doctors across the country are expected back in hospitals this Thursday after the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Union and the national and county governments finally signed a return to work formula agreement on Wednesday evening, effectively bringing to an end their 56-day strike. KMPDU Secretary General Dev Giatella directed doctors to resume work within 24 hours, even as the national and county governments committed to fully implement the agreed deal. This as the issue of posting of medical interns remains unresolved. Joseph Wahungo has the details.
26 days of push and pull, striking doctors and the national and county governments finally put pen on paper on a deal. The signing of a return to work formula at the Kenyatta International Convention Center in Nairobi was witnessed by Head of Public Service Felix Koskei, Labour Cabinet Secretary Florence Bore, her public service counterpart Moses Kuria, among others. Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakumicha and Council of Governors Chair Anne Waiguru expressed relief and commitment to fully implementing the signed deal.
I am confident that what we have signed on to today, having consulted widely, this is a deal that is going to be implemented by all of us.
We will be continuing with the process of dialogue and negotiation with the other outstanding institutions that we haven't yet settled.
Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Union Secretary General Dev Giatella confirmed that of the 19 issues, an agreement is yet to be reached on the posting of medical interns on 206,000 shillings monthly salary.
And so from the document that we had a very long meeting today with our National Advisory Council, that is the highest decision-making organ. And they endorsed that we signed this particular return to work formula today so that it can pave way for the doctors to resume work within 24 hours from now. And that means the strike that began on 13th of March 2024 has been called off. All the doctor interns, that is the medical officer interns, the pharmacist interns, and the dentist interns will have to wait a little bit longer. We have agreed on a 60 days period that they will not be posted, but we'll be having conversations on this issue.
Governors have also implored striking clinical officers to end their month-long strike ahead of a meeting set for Tuesday next week, aimed at reaching a consensus on the demands. For Prime Edition, I'm Joseph Wahungu.
And finally, some reprieve, of course, for so many Kenyans who have gone 4 months without proper care, obviously because of a strike by the doctors. Now, schools will resume officially on Monday, the 13th of May 2024, for the second term after it was postponed by 2 weeks. President William Ruto announced the reopening of schools Wednesday at State House, Nairobi, citing the latest analysis of a weather situation in the country. Schools were to open on the 29th of April, but postponed due to heavy rains and devastating floods across the country.
Parents have been urged to take their children back to school for second term on the 13th of May 2024. While announcing the resumption of learning disrupted for 2 weeks by heavy rains and floods, the head of state said the decision was reached at after consultation with the Kenya Meteorological Department, which has confirmed that the rains will subside in the coming days.
And on the assessment of the government of Kenya, it will now be safe, and we have made adequate arrangements. We have asked members of parliament, and we have provided resources through the NGCDF for repair of classrooms and other facilities, learning facilities across Kenya, and therefore all schools will be opened on Monday next week, and therefore parents must prepare their children to go to school.
The president made the remarks at State House, Nairobi during a meeting with grassroots leaders from Kajiado Central and Laikipia North constituencies, led by members of Parliament Kanchori Memusi of ODM and Sarah Korere of Jubilee, respectively, saying he was committed to working with all leaders regardless of their political affiliations to propel the country's development agenda forward, and that no region would be neglected due to its voting patterns.
Ile kitu wengi hawakujua ni kwamba mimi nilikuwa Azimio physically, but my soul was in UDA. Now, I've come to reconcile my soul and my body and my mind. That's why I'm here. And Your Excellency, ukiona pia nimekuja na Mheshimiwa Kaparo, unajua maneno sasa ni sawa-sawa. Unajua hii maneno hii inakuwa ngumu saa ingine.
So, we are not just here because we want to be in your party. We are here because we've seen you have the vision. We've seen that you will be able to change this country.
Kama inawezekana, kila Mkenya apande miti 50 Ijumaa. Tupande miti milioni 200 Ijumaa. Ili tuanze safari ya kukabiliana na matatizo ya climate change ama kuharibika kwa mazingira, ndio tuweze kuzuia kiangazi na tuweze kuzuia mafuriko.
Irene Mchuma Odim, the Prime Edition.
Meantime, the weatherman says that most parts of the country are in the coming weeks expected to experience reduced rainfall. However, heavy rainfall is expected to persist in western and the coastal region until the month of June. In the meantime, the Environment, Climate Change and Forestry Cabinet Secretary Soy Pantuya says that the government continues to support the over 57,000 flood victims by distributing relief food, assorted household items and provision of makeshift camps. So far, over 200 people have been reported dead, more than 170 injured, and at least 75 are missing.
For weeks now, the country has been experiencing heavy rainfall that has led to loss of lives and properties of unknown value being destroyed in the process. However, the latest weather forecast indicates a reduction in intensity.
Course of this week towards the end, we are going to have lower precipitation across the country, and we thank God for that, because I think for the past few days we have actually seen that manifestation of a subsiding heavy rainfall.
Climate Change and Forestry Cabinet Secretary Soy Pantuya was speaking at the Kenya Meteorological Department offices in Nairobi, noted that with the reduced rainfall, the weather will be conducive for tree planting across the country to mitigate the impact of climate change.
Tree growing is not just but one of the intervention areas. The strategy has enumerated several other opportunities for landscape and ecosystem restoration.
And as the country gears up for the National Tree Planting Day to be marked this Friday, 10th May, the second national holiday of its kind, following the inaugural Green Holiday marked on 13th November last year, calls have been made for Kenyans to come out in large numbers and participate in the exercise. Meanwhile, 2 sisters drowned in River Ndarugo in Njoro Sub-County, Nakuru County. According to Nyumba Kumi elder Richard Mutai, Faith Chemweno and Mary Chemngetich, aged 14 and 12 respectively, were trying to cross the flooded river on Wednesday morning when they were swept by the raging waters.
The bridge ile hajatengenezwa 3 years, about 3 years kama tunalalamika na hatujachengewa.
Elsewhere, the search of the body of a man who was swept away in his vehicle by River Sagana last Thursday is still ongoing with the help of the Kenya Defence Forces Disaster Response Battalion, who spent the better part of their day trying to retrieve the body.
Tengeza team katika hizo county nimetaja waweze kuenda Mombasa, wawe trained, wakuwe kama emergency team yetu kwa sababu ya maji.
In Baringo County, it is a double tragedy for over 300 families displaced by floods who are camping in Moinonin, Baringo North, following persistent attacks which led to the killing of 17 people. However, the locals are adamant to go back to their homes despite the assurance by the government that they will provide security.
Serikali tunaomba wasaidie sisi mahali ya kwenda na mahali pia ya kuishi, kwa sababu shule ikifunguliwa hatujui sasa hata school fees watoto wataenda na nini.
Opicha Chemtai for Prime Edition.
And that story on the National Tree Planting Day scheduled for Friday will form the basis of our conversation tonight. And we'll be speaking to George Tarus, the Conservation Secretary in the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry. And our focus really will be on that holiday Kenyans have earned themselves today. Now, more and more families continue to suffer due to floods in various parts of the country as the government and other well-wishers offer support to the affected. The First Lady, Rachel Ruto, visited the affected families in Kitengela, Kajiado County and gave them food and household items.
The arrival of First Lady Rachel Ruto at Kitengela, Kajiado County with food and non-food items was a little sigh of relief to some 800 affected families.
Meona kule Magadi vile maji imeweza kubeba hata sehemu fulani, nafikiria ilikuwa hospitali ama shule hivi, lakini tunajua kwamba hii shida ya mafuriko sio Kajiado peke yake, ilhali ni nchi yetu ya Kenya nzima pamoja hata na sehemu ya Afrika Mashariki na sehemu nyingine ya dunia.
Karibu kila kaunti imeweza kuadhirika, na leo mama yuko hapa. Tulikuwa naye Kibira, tulikuwa naye pia kule Narok, na leo yuko hapa aseme pole kwenu.
The aid was provided in collaboration with the national government, the county government of Kajiado, the Chandaria Foundation, the Aga Khan University Hospital and local leaders. The same kind of reprieve was also felt in Dagoretti South, Nairobi County, following the visit by Investment, Trade and Industry Cabinet Secretary Rebecca Miano, who distributed an assortment of food and non-food items.
Tukimaliza hii maneno ya mvua na mafuriko, sasa nije wakati mwingine tujadiliane maneno ya biashara.
Meanwhile, the State Department for Correctional Services has donated foodstuff worth 2.4 million shillings to Kenya Red Cross. The foodstuffs, which include maize flour, sugar, beans, rice among others, will go a long way in assisting victims of floods. The Principal Secretary for Correctional Services, Salome Muia Biko, made a clarion call to Kenyans of goodwill to also join hands and assist those affected by floods. Over 250 people countrywide have lost their lives so far, with heavy rains expected to continue in several parts of the country. Tilio Marco for Prime Edition.
Now, there's been a very interesting story that has been making headlines, and the Agriculture Cabinet Secretary, Mithika Linturi, is now linking his past failed love life to the planned impeachment motion in Parliament. Linturi, who appeared before the 11-member Select Committee of the National Assembly, claimed the impeachment motion, as drafted, has all the footprints of Aldai member of the National Assembly, Marian Keitany, whom they had a nasty breakup and nothing to do with the alleged fake fertilizer scandal. While pleading not guilty to all the allegations labelled against him, he urged the committee to judge him not through the lens of his past.
Emotions ran high in the first day of the impeachment hearing motion against Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mythical Inturi, who appeared before the National Assembly Select Committee.
Honorable Franklin Mythical Inturi, the Cabinet Secretary, do you agree or disagree with the...
I totally disagree.
The CS, who is at the center of the alleged scandal through his legal counsel, argued that the whole impeachment plan is a well-choreographed plan with signatures not related to the alleged fake fertilizer scandal.
As human beings, there is a tendency sometimes to say, it is that bad guy again. The Honorable Inturi, of course, as you'll find in his response about this issue, is that this campaign was sponsored by the previous administration, which again latched onto the personal, commercial, family disputes.
And I reiterate very politely and very respectfully, let Honorable Inturi, Cabinet Secretary, go. It's not fit to continue to be known.
The CS dragging Aldai Member of Parliament Marian Keitany's name to his woos, claiming she authored the impeachment motion and that Bumula Member of Parliament was just a decoy to surrender him to the altar of sacrifice.
That the real mover of this motion before you is the Honorable Member for Aldai.
If that ex-wife is alive and can be here, it will be in order, because sometimes talking about people who can also talk for themselves is fair.
I do conduct ladies. I do talk to ladies in the evening. I talked to her last night. She's very much alive. After reading the response that has been filed in the court.
When counsel for the mover accepts him before this committee that was called, I was having a discussion with the so-called, with the person that you are referring to as a proxy. One wonders what is it that was being discussed. That these are grievous matters of national importance to be reduced to love matters. Ukiachwa achika.
The chair of the committee has allowed both parties to bring forth new evidence, provided they relate to the impeachment motion. Abdiaziz Hashim from Parliament Buildings, Prime Edition.
Well, time for us to have a break, really. And when we come back, we have more news lined up for you, including that conversation about the national tree planting scheduled for Friday. Don't go too far.
Welcome to the 5th Engineering Partnerships Convention. My name is Engineer Margaret Ugai. I'm the Registrar and CEO of Engineers Board of Kenya. Our theme for the convention this year is Engineering at 60. We'll be looking forward to discussing where we've come from as a country over the last 60 years, the contributions that engineers have made towards the development of this country, and resetting ourselves to the future to embrace technology so that we can continue to make lives for Kenyans better. Karibuni nyote.
Are you looking for competent college training founded on Christian background? Sensei Institute of Technology is the right place. Welcome to the home of great practical skills where learning is hands-on, the CBC way, and everyone has potential.
I'm Silvano Magez Mugisha. From Uganda. I'm a student in Sensei Institute of Technology. I've taken several courses in Sensei, which is plant operator, plant mechanics, automotive electronics, and solar installation and CCTV. The reason why I've done all those courses with Sensei, Sensei gives the best practical skills in all fields, and these skills always help us to provide our best to the society. I've had a very good experience with Sensei because the teaching staff of Sensei do not only act like teachers, but they even act like parents. So they have given me a good experience in school and outside school.
All you need is your ID card to be admitted to either of our 2 campuses in Nairobi and Nakuru. Call us on 0717-951-055 or 0729-891-301. Sensei Institute of Technology. My skills, my future.
Multi-bonus. Zidisha ushindi wako hadi 1,000,000 na multi-bonus 1,000%. Kuwa mshindi. Motorsport.
Third-party insurance is mandatory under the law. It covers death or bodily injury to passengers, death or bodily injury to pedestrians, and damage to third-party property. Third-party policy does not cover the loss or damage by fire, theft, and accident to the vehicle. It also does not cover the owner of the vehicle and the driver. Consider taking a personal accident to cover driver and owner of the vehicle. Motor vehicle insurance cover is not transferable. When you sell your vehicle, remember to cancel your policy. Read and understand the terms and conditions of your policy. This message is brought to you by the Insurance Regulatory Authority, IRA. Bima bora kwa taifa.
The African Development Bank's annual general meeting is taking place here in Nairobi later this month. This meeting is coming at a critical time when there's a growing call to reform the global financial architecture.
Coming to talk about these issues at the present when we are suffering from the floods you are seeing is very, very important. So that when we now come back to the main subject matter of climate change and Africa's transformation, or investing in adaptation, whichever way you stand, then it becomes very relevant.
This week on Inside Government, we are talking to the Cabinet Secretary in charge of National Treasury and Economic Planning, Professor Njuguna Ndung'u. He will be explaining to us the agenda of this meeting, as well as the expected outcomes. Watch the conversation right here on KBC Channel 1 with me, O'Brien Kimani.
Welcome back. You're watching the Prime Edition. Now, the trial of former Migori County Governor Okoth Obado and 2 other accused persons in the murder of Sharon Otieno has entered a home stretch with the investigating officer in the case giving his testimony. The hearing, which will end tomorrow, will give Milimani High Court Judge Justice Cecilia Githua ample time to deliver a ruling on whether Obado and his co-accused have a case to answer in the 2018 murder of the former Ronga University student. Details in the Skills of Justice segment.
At the Milimani High Court and the 42nd prosecution witness, Chief Inspector Nicholas Solesena under Serious Crime Unit took the stand to give his testimony.
Before then, eventually came up with this beautiful statement.
Yes, perfect.
So why was he arrested?
My lady, everybody was a suspect in Migori County regarding the disappearance of the deceased. Yes, and that is why he was arrested. Eventually, even the MCA, we arrested him.
Olesena showed the court photographic exhibits from the scene of the alleged murder toward a bridge. The investigator informed the court DNA test results revealed that there was 99.99 that Okoth Obado was the father of Sharon Otieno's unborn child.
There is a possibility that the 2 men alighted when the car that the PW38 was driving slowed at the pump, and the 2 men got out of the fuel trying to check whether they could see XYC where he had fallen. That's the evidence you want to convict these 3 guys of murder? Absolutely.
Defense lawyers led by Kyoko Kilukumi and Roger Sagana, while cross-examining the investigator, raised an eyebrow on many instances and as to why he believed a prosecution witness jumped from a moving car.
The documents you have show that the tracker was on and then off and then back on. and does not say the tracker is removed and subsequently returned.
The hearing continues tomorrow. Meanwhile, there was drama at Embu's High Court when 35-year-old Dedan Njeru disrupted the court session by hurling insults to the judge before he was sentenced to 25 years for the offense of murder.
4 years mtoto sio wake unknown person. Unaniambia mpaka amenishikanaje?
Two prison officers had to handcuff him while on the dock and stand near him as presiding Judge Lucy Njuguna sought to explain to him that due process was followed during trial.
Let me explain. You tell the court that you don't want the counsel that you have been given by the court, and you want your own counsel. Wait. When we gave him Mr. Mashani proceeded with us for a very, very long time, and we never raised any objection.
He is accused of killing a 4-year-old Braden Mutwiri for ritual purposes on December 9, 2020. With the cause Obado murder hearing of former Arongo University student Sharon Otieno almost coming to an end, it remains to be seen whether the trial court will allow the defense to show a video simulation of a one witness's stand. Ruth Wamboy reporting from Milimani High Court.
And some shocking statistics here. It has now emerged that only 5,000 out of 100,000 community health promoters deployed in the country report to work daily. While expressing its frustrations over the inconsistency, the Ministry of Health now says it is developing a clear accountability framework to help track the operations of the health providers.
Close to 8 months since they were commissioned, the Ministry of Health has admitted glaring inconsistencies in the services offered by community health promoters across the country. The head of the Directorate of Health Standards in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Simon Kibias, revealed plans to closely monitor services offered under the Afya Nyumbani initiative. Dr. Kibias, who spoke on behalf of Public Health Principal Secretary Mary Muriuki, also said the ministry will train and equip more CHP supervisors to help boost service delivery.
This requires a clear accountability framework from the most operational level all the way to the national level. And this can only happen when we have quality data available through dashboards to support effective decision-making across different levels of the continuum.
Meanwhile, Vihiga Governor Wilbur Tichilo outlined shrinking fiscal space and perennial industrial actions by health workers as some of the obstacles derailing attainment of UHC in counties.
The shrinking fiscal space coupled by delay in funds disbursement of the exchequer resources affecting health service delivery negatively.
The governor, however, expressed confidence in the measures put by national government to forestall the outbreak of diseases as a result of flooding in the country. For Prime Edition, I'm Joseph Wahungu.
The family of veteran journalist Dorothy Kwayu is seeking for financial support to secure the release of their kin, Stephen Bertrand Munyako, popularly known as Steve-O. And the family is appealing to Kenyans of goodwill to help raise 150 million shillings before the 15th of this month to save Steve-O from facing the death penalty. Steve-O has been on death row in a death row sentence in Saudi Arabia for over a decade after being convicted for the demise of a Yemeni national.
Veteran journalist Dorothy Kwayu has officially launched a campaign to marshal financial support to save her son Stephen Bertrand Munyako, also known as Steve-O.
He has been an inmate in Saudi Arabia jail for the past 13 years after he was convicted of killing his workmate, who is a Yemeni named Abdul Halim Mujahid Makrad Saleh, on April 9th, 2011.
Steve-O, who has been in custody in Shimesi prison in the governorate of Mecca, Saudi Arabia since the year 2011, faces execution if the family fails to raise the required amount of 150 million shillings.
Kwangu bado ni mtoto wangu, sioni muhalifu au mtu ambaye anastahili kupata mambo yaliyompata.
Kwayu and her family are making a passionate appeal for support to secure Steve-O's freedom.
Kinachotuleta hapa ni kuomba kwa unyenyekevu usaidizi wa Wakenya wenzetu kutusaidia kurudisha Stephen Bertrand Munyako nyumbani.
We are here today to make an urgent appeal to Kenyans of goodwill to help us raise a total of 3.5 million Saudi riyals, which converts to approximately Kenya shillings 150 million Kenya shillings.
Well-wishers can send their contribution to paybill number 805-6675 and M-Pesa number 0702-878717.
State Labour and Skills Development Principal Secretary Shadrach Mwadime has reiterated the need to end child labour in the country that has seen thousands of children deprived of their rights, including their right to education. There's and more stories in our county news roundup.
During the stakeholders' engagement meeting in Mombasa County, which focused on critical issues of child labour, forced labour and trafficking of persons, the Principal Secretary Shadrach Mwadime called on all the stakeholders to come together and use the resources in their midst to end the vice.
Lazima tusukume watoto wetu waende shuleni. Hapo tu ndo tutaweza kuwasaidia ili waweze kutumia rasilimali yetu vile nilivyosema ambao ni nyingi nchini Afrika, waweze kujimudu na uchumi wetu uweze kupanuka.
In Nairobi County, the Ministry of Health, in collaboration with other stakeholders, has launched the Mind Skills program that aims to nurture the youths and adolescents cope with mental health problems.
Numbers are quite significant, the issues across the country. We know our environment is tough. We know we are going through economic difficulties. We now have flooding. We have challenges at education level, family level. So they are all causing a lot of challenges and stigma at the family level, at individual level.
Elsewhere, the Orange Democratic Movement has announced that it has dissociated itself from Uriri Member of Parliament Mark Nyamita for what they term as allegiance to the United Democratic Alliance Party. Meanwhile, the National Council for Children's Services chairperson Sophia Abdinur has asked various parties responsible for the upbringing of children to ensure they uphold the safety of their young ones during emergencies.
Children are among the most vulnerable during the natural disaster and multiple challenges, including physical, emotional, and psychological problems that can have long-lasting impact if not addressed effectively. Ensuring physical safety of the children is therefore paramount through early warning system, evacuation plans, and emergency shelters, among others.
For Prime Edition, I'm Christine Matunda.
Shamba ni mbili, yako ni gani? Kwa star 570 hash. Every 100 shillings unayotumia kwa Lucky Game inakupa 1 entry point ya kuingia kwenye drum ya draw ambayo inakupa fursa ya kujishindia moja kati ya shamba hizi mbili. Mwisho wa March namtangaza mshindi wa shamba hili la 1.1 million Kenyan shillings na unapata title deed yako safi. Na mwisho wa April namtangaza mshindi wa shamba hili la 1.1 million Kenyan shillings, lori za mawe na mchanga. Zote ndizo hizi. Dial star 570 hash. Title deed ndio hii. Buka na shake.
Get out right now or I will shoot you.
That guy that came to see you.
With Al-Hore?
Yes, Daddy. I saw them.
Well, Corina, I wish with all my heart that this mystery man of yours truly loves you just the way you deserve.
Watch your words, mister. Don't let him pressure you, Fabiola.
Many years ago, before you even came into this world, your mother was married to my son, the real owner of Las Bandidas. Why hasn't your father told you anything about it?
What happened? Fabi, I know everything. Now I know everything.
Let's shift gears now to business, and engineers should integrate climate-smart innovation in their work to meet the demands of changing times. Roads and Transport Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen says heavy rains have brought the engineering profession into sharp focus, with calls emerging on the need for reinvention, specialization and leveraging on technology.
The engineering profession has over the years come under scrutiny over cases of collapsed buildings, and the pressure continues to mount as adverse effects of climate change are felt.
We will be sitting down with the road agencies here and the other infrastructure institutions to make sure that we do proper assessment of the situation across the country.
Adoption of climate-centric innovations has been identified as a solution to emerging challenges.
And we will call upon all of you as engineers to provide lasting solutions and long-term solutions insofar as having climate-resilient infrastructure across the country.
Murkomen pledged to fast-track the establishment of the School of Engineering for sharpening the skills of engineers.
I hope at the end of our convention, we will also enhance that foundation so that 20, 30 years from now, the youngsters who stood can also have the opportunity to confront the challenges that will be facing them at that time.
In a population of 50 million, we are 4 short. And that is why we give ourselves this big task to mentor and develop engineers.
Engineers Board of Kenya is calling for the full implementation of the local content policy to secure work opportunities for local engineers.
Secondly, our chief guest is to strengthen compliance to the Engineers Act of 2011 to 100% by developing and enforcing engineering standards in the national and the county governments.
The on a clarion call to have the integration of climate-smart innovations in this particular field to engineer for the future. I'm Regina Manyara reporting for Prime Edition.
In the meantime, Kenya plans to increase investments in enhancing soil health to boost agricultural production. The Prime Cabinet Secretary, Musalia Mudavadi, says there is need to replenish the country's soil nutrients through proper use of synthetic fertilizer and adoption of smart agriculture.
The import bill of food in Africa is estimated at 8 trillion Kenyan shillings annually. Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi believes this could be addressed through channeling more resources to soil treatment to reduce soil acidity.
Therefore, we'll aim to consolidate the key outcomes and commitments that will be geared to address the widespread and long-decade decline in soil quality, a phenomenon that continues to negatively impact Africa's agricultural production.
He is calling for prudent use of synthetic fertilizer and integration of smart farming into Kenya's food system to replenish soils with key nutrients.
For the continent to take decisive steps to sustainably increase agricultural productivity while mitigating the fertilizer-related contributions to climate change.
We are looking at encouraging farmers to use much more organic fertilizer because it is less injurious to the soil as opposed to chemical fertilizer.
The forum called on governments in Africa and development partners to fund organic fertilizer startups.
For a long time, we have invested in mineral or chemical fertilizers, but now it is time to invest in soil health management practices, which can actually then make us get returns that we do get from our mineral fertilizers.
Agronomists are recommending intercropping as a way of replenishing the soils.
Forage legumes can fix nitrogen up to 100 to 150 kilograms and more per hectare.
Benson Rioba reporting for Prime Edition.
The United Nations Human Settlements Program targets to raise at least $1.2 trillion for putting up 52 million housing units to bridge the deficit globally. The cash will be raised through various initiatives by stakeholders in the housing value chain.
The 3-day UN Habitat Summit in Nairobi highlighted the implementation of Housing Compact for Africa initiative.
resource mobilization and rent-to-own housing promotion as remedies to end housing deficit that stand at 52 million units globally.
Commitments and actions mark significant steps toward addressing some of the most pressing challenges faced by our cities and human settlements around the world.
The funds are said to be sought through collaboration with development partners.
There's also a need for UN Habitat to receive more in terms of funding and underline the necessity for increased engagement and official partnerships, some beneficial partnerships with development partners institutions such as Shelter Africa Development Bank, among others.
Among resolutions reached during the 3-day meeting was for member states to ensure human settlements are inclusive, safe and resilient.
For states at the national and local governments for the promotion of the sustainable development, sustainable urbanization.
Persai Frederick, Prime Edition.
Local content productions should explore streaming service platforms to showcase their productions and earn from it. Showmax, a general manager for East Africa, Emma Gichonga, is advising content creators to make productions that can easily be accessed via smart devices that are increasingly the preferred platform for consumers.
The local producers, the casts, and all related stakeholders to make content. It means we are looking out for more stories to tell, which means we are expecting to see, more from our content producers and all stakeholders in the TV and film industry. We are looking at an increase in production of local Kenyan content, over 150% increase in local production, which translates into 1,300 hours.
Smallholder farmers should embrace integrated approaches such as agroforestry and intercropping, reduces soil disturbance and encourages regenerative production. International Center for Tropical Agriculture agronomist Dr. Job Kihara says integrated farming practices enable farmers to maximize the value of fertilizer and minimize nutrient losses.
Declining soil fertility continues to negatively affect agricultural productivity among resource-constrained smallholder farmers. Agronomists want farmers to fast-track transition to climate-smart soil and water management practices for optimal farm output.
You find degraded soils, and 40% of farmers are the only ones who are implementing soil and water conservation measures. We need more farmers to implement those.
They want the current integrated soil fertility management interventions reviewed to address the changing farming trends.
We are moving from the blanket type of recommendations to tailor the recommendations to the specific degradation status of the fields.
They also challenged farmers to take advantage of public initiatives where they can be trained to better understand crop-specific needs and improve technology adoption.
The farmers need techniques at local level. They don't need it at the capital, at the ministries, but at local level.
Ndutamo Kami for Prime Edition.
Startups and entrepreneurs should embrace regular training on cybersecurity to safeguard their data, even as they increasingly automate their operations. The Association of Startups and Small and Medium Enterprises argues that the dynamic nature of technology exposes entrepreneurs to various security challenges, such as spamming and data phishing.
The internet was built, but it was not built for security, and we cannot eliminate it. So we are here to make sure that we can be able to surf online, we can be able to trade online, we can do business online, and we have been able to have most of our members in these sessions, and we believe that the ripple effect is going to be huge, since our members are going to train other different innovators in their community.
I'm in the market intelligence sector. And as we do data standardization and integration, then the knowledge you've gotten about, detecting, knowing the products, knowing the gadgets that you have, how to set up strong passwords, and generally how to ensure that you update your systems and have a functional backup systems is going to be very instrumental.
The training has really been impactful. I've learned different ways of even knowing cybercrime alerts and even how to detect issues around cybercrime.
Back to the future. The future is simulate. Bet smarter. Win faster now. Be a winner. Mozart Bet.
You're one busy lady, Millicent. I don't know how you do it.
What do you want?
To talk.
Kaikara is going to come at us. He'll smile at you and stab you at the same time. Why did you have him quit his job?
Oh, no. He did that all by himself.
Kwani ni nini anamthreaten nayo?
I don't see any documents on you.
Once me and my family are out of the country and safe, I will hand over.
Hakuna shimo sitakupata. And if not you, somebody you care so much about.
Nasikia Ronald amejifungia kwa ofisi auntie. Kaikara, what games are you playing?
Like I said, Ronald knows what to do.
That man is vicious.
In fact, to parallel it with the Bible, theologians say that Jesus spoke about money more than he spoke about heaven and hell. How do you survive in tough economic times, and what is the wisdom of managing our resources?
Whether young or old, we need to develop a culture of saving.
Okay.
Young men need to know that you are not living for people. Live for yourself.
Okay.
And there is no marriage with people knowing what you drive. Live within your means. Don't be under pressure to be like someone.
Sports News is brought to you by Mozart Bet.
My name is Daniel Wahome. Welcome to Prime Edition Sport. Now, African Games bronze medalist Simon Koech reclaimed his title in the 3,000 meter steeplechase during the 44th Kenya Defence Forces Track and Field Championship, which concluded today at the Ulinzi Sports Complex.
Simon Koech reclaimed his 3,000-meter steeplechase men in a time of 8 minutes and 22 seconds, ahead of Wesley Langat, who came in second in 8 minutes and 32 seconds, as Elius Kibet took the third position. Two-times world cross-country champion Daniel Munguti won the 1,500 meters title in a dramatic final in 3 minutes and 37 seconds, defeating Joseph Rotiken in less than a second, as Matthew Kipchumba finished third.
Every athlete wants to be an Olympian. That's the farthest point you can go as an athlete. So for me to qualify kwanza, then to get the slot to represent my country, it will be a very big achievement to me.
Samuel Chege and Lois Morara were the overall athletes of the championship. Chege bagged 4 gold medals in the 100 meters, 200 meters and the relays, while Morara also won 3 gold medals in the 100 meters, 200 meters and the relays, as well as a silver in the 4x400 meters. Belinda Oburu broke the KDF shot put record to set a new mark of 14.25 meters.
This event has drawn participation of many teams from far and wide, and I would like us to applaud all those that participated in this event.
Our athletes have demonstrated a high standard of performance and spirit of sportsmanship. This is no mean achievement considering the level of competitors in this field and training amid the prevailing challenges nationally and worldwide.
Man to man, second to none.
The 3-day event saw the Kenya Defence Forces select a team which will represent them in the national championship, set for 16th to 18th of this month.
That over 20 teams have confirmed participation in the ISF World Schools Cross Country Championships, scheduled to take place this weekend at the Ngong Racecourse in Nairobi. Kenya will present a field of 61 athletes who are geared towards a good performance at the international event.
Diana Chepkemoi, a Form 3 student at Saramek Secondary School in Londiani, Kericho County, who bagged bronze in the World Cross Country 6-kilometer race in Serbia, will headline the girls' under-18 team and is relying on her experience from Serbia to produce a stellar performance on Sunday.
Taleta good tabika Kenya yetu na naona timu yangu wako sawa, training tulipewa training poa, na shukuru tena coaches wenye walitusaidia kwa mazoezi, wametupea programu yenye inashikana na mwili yetu.
Fanuel Koech, who will be racing in the under-18 boys competition, wants nothing less than a gold. The St. Francis Kimron Boys E10 Form 3 student represented Kenya in the Africa Under-18 and Under-20 Championship in Zambia last year, where he emerged fourth in the 800 meters race.
Lazima tushinde hii kitu. Sema hata kama itakuwa aje, lazima tukue top 10 wote. Juu president huko alituahidi tukishinda atatuundia sherehe huko kwake.
The coaches are happy that we are running on a slightly flat course with a few obstacles, and we are also having the athletes to have a feel of the course.
More than 400 athletes from various teams across the world are expected in the country from tomorrow in readiness for the championship, which will also entail a cultural festival. This is the first time Kenya is hosting the World Schools Cross Country, with various categories lined up, namely the under-18, under-15 and under-12, both boys and girls. Nora Mwangi reporting for Prime Edition Sports.
Now, reigning African champion Karan Patel and junior African champion Hamza Anwar will be among the star attractions at this year's Pearl of Africa Uganda Rally, scheduled to start on Friday morning. 2022 winner Jess Mangat will also feature among the 30 crews registered for the rally. KCB-sponsored Karan and Hamza will be going for the Pearl title, which has eluded them in their R5 machines, having encountered different challenges in their previous attempts. Karan, who skipped last year's event, will be navigated by Tausif Khan in a Skoda Fabia, while Hamza will partner with Adnan Din in a Ford Fiesta. Following the exclusion of Rally Bandama of Cote d'Ivoire, this year's Pearl of Africa Rally will set the platform for the 2024 FIA African Rally Championship. The rally will begin on Friday morning with free practice at Wairaka before a repeat run of Surambaya and Makarena on Sunday, when it will conclude at Jinja. Lionesses were dealt a major blow to their 2025 Rugby World Cup campaign when they lost their second Rugby Africa Women's Cup match to South Africa, who beat them 63 points to 5 at the Stade Marquis in Antananarivo to rule them out of contention. Jackie Chilier produced a great performance with a hat-trick of tries and 4 conversions for a total of 23 points after Lusanda Dumka had opened the score sheet with her first try. Sikolilwe Mdleshe, Noah Wetu Mabenge and Lindel Wagwala scored 2 tries each as the South Africans ran havoc over the Kenya Lionesses. Assistant captain Rose Otieno scored Kenya's consolation in the 36th minute before Vaina Ubisi scored the 6th try for the Springbok women in the first half. The Kenya Lioness, who lost 29-22 to host Madagascar on Saturday in the first round, will face Cameroon in their next match on Sunday. And Real Madrid have put their La Liga triumph on hold with their focus solely on the UEFA Champions League second leg semi-final against Bayern Munich at the Santiago Bernabeu tonight. The two sides are tied 2-2 from the first leg at the Allianz Arena, with the winners beating Borussia Dortmund in the June 1st final. Dortmund went through on a 2-0 aggregate win over Paris Saint-Germain last night.
Back in his native England with his performance.
Edin Terzic's side were outstanding in the semi-final return at the Parc des Princes, where they stunned Paris Saint-Germain to confirm their place in the final, where they will face either Bayern Munich or Real Madrid at Wembley. PSG hit the post twice through Nuno Mendes to carry on their misfortunes from Germany. Borussia Dortmund took advantage of a corner to net the lone winner through Hummels in the 50th minute.
Late run to the edge of the goal area, where the ball's going. It's a free header for Hummels. They have doubled their lead.
The hosts thought they had been awarded a chance to level the scores through a penalty when Italian referee Daniele Osrato pointed to the spot, only for it to be ruled out. The hosts thought they had been awarded a chance to level the scores through a penalty when Italian referee Daniele Osrato pointed to the spot, only for it to be ruled out. PSG, who have never won the European title, had no choice but to bow out after being frustrated by Borussia Dortmund.
And so that's the sport for tonight. My name is Daniel Wahome. I'm handing you over to John Jacob Kuria, and he's going to be speaking with Conservation Secretary George Tarus, and this is about the tree planting day that has been gazetted for Friday. Back to you, John Jacob.
Sports News was brought to you by Mozart Bet.
You can lift the plane. The higher you fly, the higher your win. The sky is the limit. Mozart Bet.
Good. Time for us now to get into a conversation on the National Tree Planting Day that is scheduled for Friday. And of course, also in remembrance of the flood victims of the rains that continue to pound different parts of the country, although the weatherman says that they are subsiding. And joining me in studio is George Tarus, who is the Conservation Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Joe.
You're welcome. Let's talk about, before we even talk about the plans by government this year, last year there was a similar exercise, taking stock. What is the progress so far?
Thank you very much. And first of all, let me commensurate with Kenyans who've lost their lives and their property.
Yes.
Like you rightly said, this is the second national event that we've planned as government to be able to rally everybody to go out there and plant trees. Last year, on 13th of November, we did have another national holiday, precisely dubbed as the first green holiday, to be able to set ourselves to work towards ensuring that our landscape have at least 15 billion trees in the next 10 years. So when we went out there, we were able to plant over 300 million seedlings during that day. Of course, there are also quite a number of other lessons we learned in the process, some of which now is informing the second national holiday that we are about to roll out in Friday. But of course, we may not say that we launched it and stopped. We've been doing quite a number of other activities to ensure that we are ready to walk the long journey, because 10 years is not a short period of time. And part of what we've been looking at is how best do we reorganize our efforts so that we are working in a very systematic, organized manner that is bringing everyone. And that's why we are dubbing this initiative the whole of society, the whole of government, and the whole of our partner approach, where each one of us, of course, the executive leading from the front, but telling each one of us, individual Kenyans, corporate, private citizens, to work with us to ensure that our landscapes are basically restored. Because we've learned, and I think it's unfortunate that this flood has gone to the extremes, but I think it is a testament as to why initially the government had to think of the landscape and ecosystem restoration as its priorities. Because in so doing, we are visualizing a situation where we would not have extreme climate events, because in all honesty, we are in a climate crisis where we would be most likely moving from an extreme flood event to another drought event. And part of what scientists are guiding us on is we need to invest very heavily in tree growing as one of the nature-based solutions. So basically that was the foundation. And this was again guided by quite a substantive detailed work that we did dating back to 2015. Where we did an extensive mapping of our country, and we realized that 38.8 million hectares of our land are either in degraded and very degraded states, and therefore requires in one way or another human interventions, be it through direct tree planting, in some situation protection, and all manner of other interventions, so that we have our ecosystems, the way we've been endowed as a country. We have 7 ecosystems for the record. We have montane ecosystems, we have wetlands, we have forest lands, we have grasslands, and all of them are not performing what they are supposed to be performing naturally. So the whole idea behind the 10-year National Ecosystem and Restoration Strategy is to ensure that each one of those are at least brought back to their pristine state, if possible, so that we are able to live through the challenges of climate change the way we are seeing it. Yeah.
You've talked about 300 million trees target that, what you did last year.
Yes.
And we'll talk about the survival rate of those trees. Okay. But I'm imagining 300 million is not even a quarter of the total target of 15 billion shillings. 15 billion trees in 10 years. But you have 10 years. Question is, when you assess the efforts of last year, vis-a-vis the process you're saying about 2015 and how you had mapped out the country, do you think we are on course towards achieving that?
Of course, the part of what was happening last year is part of the preparatory phase, looking at how our systems are fitting in together, setting up of nurseries, setting up of structures. Yes, we were able to do 300, though our target was 500 million for that short rain season. We are hopeful that this year we should be able to surpass, because each year, for us to be at the target, we should be doing 1.5 billion trees a year. So basically, we know we have some deficits of what we need to do for the last long short rains. And the plans now around this specific day, which is on Friday, is basically to rally each one of us. And His Excellency the President has given us indicative figures we have to work around and assume if each child in Kenya was to grow 10 trees and every adult in Kenya is to grow at least 50 trees, that means we should be able, in a single day, to grow well over a billion seedlings, which means it's possible for us to still meet our target and be on track. Of course, there are quite a number of things we noted also during our last season. We did the planting. Somehow again, we had a little bit of the dry season. So there are quite a number of areas that may not have performed optimally the way we were thinking. But with floods and the intense rainfall regimes that we've been able to experience, we are quite convinced that this time around we should see quite a number of trees that we are putting in our landscape on Friday growing into maturity.
Let me ask you, because at the beginning you said you have learned lessons.
Yes.
Comparing to the first tree planting holiday.
Yes.
What lessons did you learn from last season?
The first lesson we learned is the whole issue of coordination and more or less government leading from the front. And part of what has happened since that time is the cabinet has directed cabinet secretaries to take the front lines. Of all the cabinet secretaries, each one of them have been assigned a site to the dot. They have coordinates of where they are supposed to be restoring. They have set up a date at least once a month for them to lead from the front. And from that initiative alone, we should be able to see over 50 million trees being grown by the cabinet secretaries alone. Leave alone now there are state institutions, there are the employees of government, the private sector. So one of the lessons that we learned was the whole issue of coordination. And what we did out of that is we have now a very robust strategy in place that has cascaded the whole process of tree growing and ecosystem restoration to ward level. We will be seeing committees operating all the way to the ward level, more or less embodying a situation where we have a whole of society and all of government approach. So coordination was the issue number one. The next other issue was the availability of the plant material to be able to grow. So we are actually working on that, and the government has supported the capacities of Kenya Forest Service, National Youth Service, prison services to be able to expand their nursery capacities so that we have adequate seedlings available. And we're also calling upon part of the CSS talk press brief was calling also on private sector, and we are working with our development partners to set up a kit of resources to be able to off-take seedlings from communities and private sector. So that's part of the trick of what we learned during the last period when we had the national tree growing event. Yes.
I'm still on last year's tree planting. When I looked at what CS Soipan had sent to media houses, every government office had a target, including the office of the president, the executive office of the president, the deputy president, and cascading all the way to cabinet secretaries and the departments under them. Which ministry, which department, which office appears to be well on course?
Now, all of them, I wouldn't pinpoint that none of them is doing not doing their bit. Partly what we are now tweaking a little bit is pairing, because we is pairing the technical capacity and load within the Ministry of Environment to the specific offices of government. So in the distribution of the planting sites to even the coordinates, there is a specific officer of Kenya Forest Service, there is a specific officer of KEFRE, there is a specific officer of NEMA attached to the tree growing efforts, so that the requisite technical capacities are going to be provided. Yeah, so that is the enhancement also that we've been able to do, because as you are aware, not everybody has the specialized skill in tree growing. So part of the reorganization, therefore, is to ensure that we provide the desired technical support as they invest their time on a monthly basis to be able to put trees into the landscape. Yes.
300 million last year.
Yes.
What is the target this year?
The target this year is, of course, 1.5. So we carried over 200, so it should be well over 1.7 billion is what we are aiming to be able to achieve. And we are hopeful now during this rainy season, with all factors being right, we should be able to have a significant number of trees put into the landscape and growth into maturity. Yeah.
How are European county governments, community groups and the private sector to boost, government efforts of, achieving that cover of 15 billion trees in 10 years?
So of course, the integral role of county governments and the community group societies are actually very critical. And part of the transformation that has happened between then and now is there been deliberate engagement through the Council of Governors and led by our cabinet secretaries to meet with specific county governors to have a discussion on how best they can be able to plug in. Within the 15 billion tree growing strategy, there are specific targets that county governments are also supposed to bring into the table. And I have seen enthusiasm, of course, and support from county government also to be part of the conversation, to be part of the action. And in fact, quite a number of counties have already dedicated specific ecosystems for them as targets, because the way the executive at the national level is doing. So governors are also coming out very strongly. MCAs are coming out also very strongly to be able also to lead from the front, because in so doing, we should be able to rally everybody into the table. In terms of the private sector engagement, we've had a number of roundtables with the private sector and KEPSA and even our development partners. And we are engaging them basically with a view of also creating a conversation with them, because down the road we are looking at the sustainability. After we've planted these trees, we have a huge opportunity as a country to create very sustainable value chains around possibilities. For fruit trees, for instance, we are thinking of at least 20% of them being fruit trees. And that creates an industrial opportunity for even processing, agro-processing towards the food industry. Looking at the green construction, looking at the conversation around adding value to tree products to create green jobs and also support the whole issue of climate change. So the role of private sector, yes, at seedling production stage, but again, downstream, after we put this landscape with trees, we should be able to, in a sustainable way, create opportunities for industrial transformation. If you go to countries like Sweden, you go to countries like South Africa, a huge proportion of the economy is supported by wood and wood-based industries. So that's also the kind of conversation we are thinking, whether we could, again, be able to start thinking through, so that out of this big initiative, we see a huge economic transformation down the road. Yeah.
Let's circle back a bit.
Yes.
The long-term survival of the trees being planted last year and, of course, this year.
Yes.
Question is, Did the technology of monitoring how these trees survive work last year, so much so that you roll it out this year?
Yes, part of the technology, of course, worked. We are all recording our trees in Jazamiti. We also realized that because of the intense numbers that are also coming out of our tree growing initiative, there is need to be able to optimize. And part of what has been happening is system optimization, so that we are able to enhance our monitoring capacities and more so also be able to integrate other utilities within the ecosystem, because the idea is we would want to have other utilities around the technology, so that we have a species site matching embedded into that. You have a linkage with the possibilities of markets. You link that to nurseries where your activities. We would also link that with the possibilities of industrial, because out of that tool, we would want to see many things springing out of that. So part of what we are doing now is a system optimization to create opportunities for bigger innovation around that space. Yes.
You talked about, people, for example, or companies that have seedlings, for example.
Yes.
This time, what is government doing to uptake, beyond what Kenya Forest Service is offering? Is the government really offering incentives, for example, to people who have their private, as what we'd say, nurseries, so much so that if there is a deficit in terms of the trees that KFS can offer, that you can also engage other people to provide these trees?
Yes, I think there's a little bit of also a tweak this time around.
Okay.
Last time, seedlings were freely available from KFS nurseries. There would be a little bit of an investment required by anybody who wants to plant a tree. Of course, the prices are a little bit affordable. And that's the directive that has actually been given to all government institutions, that they have to invest. And what we've done, therefore, is to map where these private nurseries are, for instance, so that any other entity that is interested, be it a government institutions, they can be able to purchase or procure seedlings from the locality of where they are restoring. The next other issue that has also come in is that it is the responsibility of also, especially the cabinet secretaries and their state agencies, to mobilize communities and see how they are able to engage local communities in their restoration effort. So the expectation out of that is we should be able to start mopping out seedlings from the private nurseries. And again, it's a conversation we've continued having with our development partners. We've had discussions with, for instance, the UN agencies and family, looking at a possibility of creating a fund where it will purely be dedicated for taking seedlings that are already existing within our private and community nurseries. So that is also another transformation that we are seeing it coming into the space. And we are also calling and urging even the private sector now to come into the fold and be able to work with us as government to ensure that we also are able to create green jobs, because nurseries in itself is an opportunity for creation of green jobs in numbers. And I know across the country we've listed and actually documented well over 1,600 nurseries that have huge capacities of seedlings already ready for uptake. And we're continuing actually in that exercise, recording, and hopefully down the road we should be able to integrate those information within Jazamiti application or the monitoring ecosystem generally, and move the story and move the restoration effort forward.
The common denominator is climate change adaptation.
Yes.
Beyond the planting of trees, the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Climate Change, what other interventions does it have to lead Kenya towards the goal of climate adaptation?
You are right. Of course, climate change is a monster that is facing all of us, and part of the government transformation to ensure that we are able to be responsive to the climate change situation is documented in what we call nationally determined contribution, which is a government blueprint of moving our economy into a climate resilience space. So part of what is happening, and more so within the forestry space, is the huge ecosystem restoration programs that we are seeing. Side by that is also now transitioning to low-intensive technologies, where again we are able to manage what is coming out of our space in terms of the climate-causing gases. But as you may be aware, nature-based solutions has been dubbed as one of the biggest opportunities for countries like Kenya to be able to live itself through the extremes of climate change. And let's contrast, if we are able to restore our lands, most likely we would have less of the runoffs, we would most likely have less of the landslides, we will most likely have less of the extremes associated with floods. If we're also able to put our landscape under trees, we would have less of the water scarce situation that we see when droughts are there. So it's one of big opportunities that we have as a country to be able to adapt and build our resilience to the climate change situation. Yes.
In less than a minute,
yes,
on the camera, Friday morning,
yes,
when every Kenyan wakes up,
yes,
of course happy because of a holiday,
yes,
what should I do in relation to this day?
I want to urge each one of us as Kenyans, we have an opportunity as a country to be able to build our future. They said the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the next best time to plant a tree is now. On Friday, I call upon each one of you to come out in large numbers. For those who are within Nairobi, there are already areas that have been mapped out for you to be able to participate in this very noble cause of tree growing. Secondly, across the country, we would see cabinet secretaries, we would see all leaders of government going out to their respective sites to be able to do the needful of planting trees. If which one of us was to do 50 trees, in that day we should be able to plant well over 1 billion trees, which is in itself an insurance against the situation that we are facing as a country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. George Tarus is the Conservation Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry. What is important is that Friday is a National Tree Planting Day. And the target, as Tarus says, is 50 trees per individual. It will help the government and, of course, the country in achieving the tree cover that is targeted in the next 10 years. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, and thank you, Tarus, for making time for us. And we wish you all the very best.
Thank you.
This is where we put a cap on Prime Edition. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is John Jacob Curia. Lensa Odingo was our sign language interpreter.
Mpenzi mtazamaji wa runinga unayoipenda ya KBC Channel 1.
Over the years, we have been at the forefront of broadcast trends to bring you the best of news, entertainment,
how high-end are we speaking?
And sports.
Thank you for joining us.
You have the power to take your favorite broadcaster to the top. KBC Channel 1 has been nominated in the TV Station of the Year category in the 7th edition of the Kuza ICT Awards.
Favorite TV station.
To vote for KBC via SMS, simply use the short code 15601 and follow the prompts at no cost. Or visit www.kuzaawards.co.ke and follow the registration instructions to vote. KBC Channel 1. Kenya's watching.
Kurumisha ndege. Aviator Instant Game. Be a daring pilot and earn by how much high you can lift the plane. The higher you fly, the higher your win. The sky is the limit. Mozart Bet.